Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of What Drives You. And this is kind of a year in the making, right, Steve? I think,
It
or
is.
so.
It
Yeah.
is.
So, Steve Carter, Hooper, pastor, father, husband, and just a good dude, is joining us today. So, welcome, Steve.
Carl, it's an honor to be with you on the What Drives You podcast. And obviously, been a big fan of you. We've just love what you are about, what you're working on. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. I don't know that. I mean, I think some people who know you well know you're a Hooper. So we'll talk about that in a minute and how that kind of has connected us with just the project that I'm working on outside. But your main gig is as a pastor, as a teaching pastor. So, and that's kind of what I want the main focus of this whole thing to be about is what drives you to continue in that role, in that job, in that ministry. But how did you get? You're not from Chicago. You're back in Chicago. So how did you get? Let's start there. Kind of how did you get drawn to the Midwest?
Yeah. So my adopted father was from Grand Rapids, Michigan. So grew up loving all things the University of Michigan. So we'd come out, every once in a while, see my grandparents, but it was very, very rare. But every fall, I was Saturday mornings were watching Michigan football with my dad, watching the Fab Five, obviously, and just at Michigan. So I had this like kind of this tie to the Midwest. But in fifth grade, and this is no joke, you could call up any one of my childhood friends from school. You remember those like starter puffy jackets, like parkas? Well, all of us lived in California. It was 72 degrees pretty much every day. We had no business like getting a starter parka puffy jacket, but they were so cool and they were so in, but we didn't all want to buy the same team. And so we called a meeting. Like there's 10 guys, 10 fifth graders. We called a meeting and said, all right, you have to, at this point, you have to choose your city and you have to choose your team. And I like drew first. We did like an NBA draft. I drew first. I took Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bears, Chicago Cubs, Chicago Blackhawks, and the Michigan Wolverines were my college team. So that's what I chose. So I got the Chicago Bulls puffy jacket. And it just kept this connection with Chicago, WGN, Chicago Cubs baseball. Like I was in California, but I had this bizarro pull to the Midwest. And so then come ministry time, I, kind of bounced between California. My parents moved to Grand Rapids, so I moved with them. And that's where I met a guy by the name of Bill Hybels when I was in Grand Rapids. I knew his son-in-law really, really well. And after a number of years, he invited me to join the staff at Willow Creek. And so I was then in Chicago and got to be closer to the teams that I had grown up rooting for. And so, kind of this bizarre story of somehow feeling a call and a pull many, many years before. But I love the Midwest. I love the Big Ten country, and I love the seasons.
Yeah, no, it's a great story. It's funny because I got involved, and I don't think I've ever told you this, but I got involved at Willow. I grew up in a super conservative evangelical free church
Okay.
and got scholarship to Trinity College in Deerfield. And it was not because it was connected to the seminary, but just because they were next door to each other. We, would run into a lot of youth ministry folks. And a couple of my dear friends who are still friends today were telling me about Willow Creek. I had never heard of it. Ironically, my wife grew up literally 2 blocks from South Park Church, where the Sun City was born.
Yep.
And so she knew about them and she knew, so there was this weird connection. And the only thing I heard about Willow was it was a cult. And so I would tease these guys. Literally, we would be doing laundry, and I'd be like, "You guys go to a cult? I can't believe this. You're here learning youth ministry and the Bible." And they literally cornered me and were like, "We are going to beat the crap out of you unless you come to this church and see what it's like." And so finally, I went. I brought Beth, and that was in 1984.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
we stuck it out. And but I remember vividly. Fast forward through a million different teaching pastors and iterations of stuff at Willow. Um, when I first time I heard you speak, and I'm like, who is this kid? Like,
Hmm.
again, I'm not that much older than you, but I was like, what a breath of fresh air
Mm.
and energy. And I'm like, where did we like usually you hear about people like, hey, we're recruiting this big guy's coming in and Gene Apple and blah blah. And then it was you, and I was like, wow. And then when Tyler invited us to play ball, I'm like, this guy can't know how to play basketball. And we were at that gym in Barrington. I was like, holy crap, this guy's actually good. He's fun, he's competitive, and you were competitive. So yeah, it was refreshing to find a real person, real pastor, as opposed to, famous Bill Hybels type of category stuff. But yeah, it was fun to have you come to our church and our community, and then to have you just kind of around town. Lori Schultz was here yesterday, and
Yes.
hanging out with Beth, and just those connections with our kids as friends, watching your kids, and just I'm like, this is a regular dude. So
Yeah. Well, it's so funny. So for those who are listening, we would do this Wednesday night service, and after the Wednesday night service, it's like 9 o'clock, and you just been serving, pouring yourself out, and so what are you gonna do? And there was this house in Barrington, Illinois, that had a gym connected to it, and they just let us come over and play basketball. And so uh, guys like Carl and me and all these other pastors and volunteers would go, and those runs got intense, and they were hilarious and they were fun. But we played till like 11 p.m., be exhausted, and then have to go to work the next morning. But I loved it. It was like a highlight. I just was with Tracy Stingley last night,
mm,
and he was like, we were just reminiscing about those games, man. I wish I could go back, still have that energy of 2016, but
yeah.
10 years earlier, but it was so much fun.
Well, not even in preparation for this podcast, but I was talking to Beth just about, I'm like, who has a gym around here that we could get access to with a key, and I could just put a Facebook and say, hey, like, older guys,
Yes.
this is the night from 7 to midnight. We're going to play. If 5 guys show up or 30 guys show up, we're going to roll. Because unless you're in a run, I don't know where there is one right now. Because are you still living in our area, or where are you at?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm in Hoffman Estates.
Okay.
So yeah, but there's a game at the Willow Rec Center off of Algonquin at like
Hmm.
Saturday mornings. I've just given this away to the podcast, but
Yeah.
so it's 7 a.m. So there's a sign up sheet that you got to get onto, but that's the only one I really know of, that
Yeah.
people are playing. So
There was one at what's the church on Main Street in Barrington that's out, uh the EV Free Church, by Ela Road. They had one at night,
okay,
and then the Lutheran Church had one too, but I think those have both kind of
yeah,
dissolved a little bit as
yeah,
people aged out and moved away and whatever. So anyway, that's kind of the hoops connection, and just where I really got to see just a real competitive, community oriented, and just it didn't matter. It was funny because and it was the weird connection. I don't know if you remember this night. You brought the guy who runs the Mexican restaurant,
oh yes, that's right, that's right.
and he, again, super lovely guy, but not a hooper.
Mm.
And people just it let him come in and play and cheered him on. And yeah, he got a couple block shots or whatever, but it was so fun to see a newbie, a rookie come in that you invited from the community. And then, which triggered me to go patronize the restaurant. And then, like, the third time in, he's like, Carl, come here, come here, come here. And you were sitting in the back eating lunch. I was like, what? What the heck? Middle of the day. So, what a great, I mean, just connecting the community.
Yeah. Sal ended up, like, I think a few months after that, getting baptized, and we still talk, and it's amazing. So it is. It's like amazing when you can bring another guy into the fold, and they get to see, oh man, all these guys. It almost gave him a vision for what's possible when you have community,
Yeah.
versus when you don't have it. So
Yeah. And that's kind of weird tie in here, but how this podcast started, it was during COVID. Just everyone was lonely and looking for connection and the whole deal. And so I put some stuff together. It never got published around automotive and helping people buy cars and experience that, terrible experience for often a lot of people often. And never published it, and then came back this last year, a year ago in January, and said, hey, I got to have a partner, community partner, who's stand couldn't join us today. He's in Texas, another hooper.
Yeah.
Um, but that connection and that community where we're just always trying to encourage or educate or entertain people through this podcast. And that's to me, and we can talk a little bit about this later too, is the internet to me is the most isolating tool and it's also the most connecting tool at the same time. It's a bizarre
Yep.
dichotomy that happens. Um, and so you and I, when I was prepping for this a little bit, I was like, cool, we could talk about Willow, we could talk about parenting, we could talk about husbandry, all these different topics. But really, what I wanted to figure out, um, and what drives you, no pun intended, was in the last 10 years, we've seen a lot of pastors come and go, rise and fall, struggles in and out, canceled. And you're still rolling, man. You're still rocking and you're still serving and teaching. What keeps you going? What drives you, besides the obvious, the big guy, Holy Spirit, but what keeps you in the biz?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I I think I think that there came a point, and again, everything to me was playing basketball growing up. I mean, get to college, play in college. Play is not the right word. I sat the bench, but I got free shoes. But I I realized that there's so much I can achieve in this world, but that has no lasting value in the next reality. And I think I just became profoundly curious about people. I mean, every person you meet is similar. I mean, we can laugh, we can cry. Our, you know, you cut us, we bleed. Like there's similarities. Doesn't matter where we're from, but there's these wild differences. Whether created in the image of God, and we're all different, different experiences. And there's stuff that unites us. Put a basketball in my hand, put a basketball in your hand, and we're going to talk. Um, there are differences based on experience or understanding, but I just found myself being profoundly curious. Number one. Number two, I grew up in a home that I walked on eggshells. I didn't I could tell from the way my dad walked if I could talk to him on the drive home. And this was before he knew Christ. Um, and I found a sense of connection and warmth that I didn't feel at home in the church. I felt like people were very curious about me and saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so I'm not someone who has bad experiences at the church. Like I think some people have, or they grew up with, some really difficult times as a child or their experience. I didn't. I had a great experience with the church. And so I think then as you kind of step in and you get trusted to be and hold space for people in really vulnerable moments. The birth of a child, the loss of a father, the celebration of two coming together in marriage, someone really having to make a difficult decision in their career, someone who's taking a step towards faith, someone who's wrestling with doubt. Somehow, like getting to be in that space really became holy ground. And I think for me, it's just I haven't lost the wonder about people. I haven't lost my love for the local church and um, ways that God has met me, and I've seen God work even despite me. And just being able to never take for granted the absolute privilege um, to be entrusted with some position in a person's life. And for me, I always think about trust being a mathematical formula. Safe plus consistent again on repeat makes you worthy of trust. If
Hmm.
you're safe but inconsistent, it doesn't make you really worthy of trust. And if you're consistently unsafe, obviously it doesn't make you worthy of trust. But trying to live a life that is safe and doesn't mean I don't take risks, but I mean people know I'm not trying to shock them. I'm not trying to be somebody else. I'm trying to be the same person on a court as I am at the pulpit, as I am in the grocery store. and then there's a consistency. And so who I am and what I say um, is consistent with the life I'm trying to live. I don't get that right all the time, but hopefully makes me worthy to be entrusted with someone in a fragile state, in a healthy state, in a sick state, and towards the end of their life state to be able to walk alongside them and truly, hopefully, be the hands and feet of Christ.
Yeah. And let's be clear, neither of us are perfect,
Very
and
far from it.
which is refreshing to not, present that way. You don't give that off at all. But and there was, I think, a season just in following some of your social media posts, and when you left Chicago for a minute, I sensed there was a possibility that you were like, maybe this maybe I'm not continuing in this vocation. But then I remember this vividly, and I can't remember if it was Lori or somebody else said Steve's coming back to Chicago, and I was like,
Mm.
oh, like that is cool.
Yeah.
Where is he going to land? And then I ended up you were in that church in Elgin
Yep.
where I went and saw, and I was like, how refreshing again just to see kind of grassroots, smaller. Because the one thing that I think I took away from the whole Willow section leader, all that kind of climax was I don't know that church is meant to be this big.
Mm.
And so that's been a constant like debate I've had with, when we look back to Acts and to Jesus, like, did he fill an auditorium with 7,000 people every weekend for three services? I don't think he did. Certainly he didn't in the scriptures. He had his three, he had his 12. Yeah, there was a crowd, posse of 30, maybe to 100. And on occasion he fed 5,000. But for the rest of it, it was not a big show and a big presentation and special interviews and guests. It was community,
Mm.
shoulder to shoulder, day to day. How are we going to eat today? Don't worry about it. Let's just, spread love and joy and peace. So, has that factored into you're coming back here and you're working? I know you're at a pretty good sized church now, but has that ever entered your mind? Like maybe this big thing isn't, I don't know. It's just my struggle.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, the truth is, every small church wants to get larger, and every large church wants to get smaller. Meaning, how do we have more influence and impact within our community? And as you get bigger, how do you not lose people? How do you keep people? Which is why the whole section strategy was built up in an auditorium that, like you said, sat 7,000 people. If you could have these 30 smaller communities, maybe that would create the as it talks about in the New Testament, the one anothering. Andy Stanley says the primary purpose of the local church is one anothering one another. As you said, love one another, pray for one another, encourage one another, spur one another on. All of those one another's is how we as the church do that. But there does get to a point, whether you're too small or too large, that it gets harder and harder to do that. And you know, I when I left Chicagoland, I needed this space to be able to grieve the fact that because I saw in the next 25 years of my life, I loved that church. I still love that church. It's my alma mater. I'll always love that church. It taught me so much, but it was like a bad breakup that I didn't see coming, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I couldn't live so close without driving by her house and going, I used to go there all the time, and now I don't think I can go there. I don't know what to do. So going to the desert, to like the literal deserted place, I felt like God met me, healed that part of me, allowed that sense of anger or feelings of injustice to almost like, let's make discipleship fun again. Let's get back to like why we got into this in the first place. And I didn't know if we'd ever come back to Chicago. I actually didn't think that was ever in the cards. But my son, I asked him when he was in eighth grade, where do you want to go to high school? And he just looked at me and said, Dad, I want to go home. I was like, well, what do you mean? He goes, I want to go back to our old neighborhood. I want to go to Friend. And so we moved 20 doors down from where we used to live. I don't know very many people who move back to their personal Chernobyl. But it was honestly for the sake of my son. And that opened a door to be able to serve twice a month at this great community called Forest City. And it also kind of put us in this environment that, I didn't see God working and moving, but this church, Christ Church of Oak Brook, which I'd always held in high regard. I thought it was one of the historic churches. And to be honest, the founder of Christ Church was related to Hybels.
Oh,
Um, and there's similar values to Willow. They just were kind of demonstrated or embodied differently. But it's remarkable some of the similarities, even though in a different context. And when 2024 came and I ended up getting called for this opportunity, this was like the first time I felt like I named my desire and said, I actually want to be here. And the last year, honestly, was arguably the best year of my life from a family front, less travel front, from serving in a local church front. Like it just felt like a full-on redemption tour. And we're I don't know, 2,500 people on a weekend. It's great size. It's
yeah,
awesome. And there's just no pressure here. It's um it's just a bunch of people who been doing this for 60 years. And what's amazing about this place that's been a gift to me is there's so many like third generation family members who are part of this church. Um, and there's something about that legacy and that tradition that I loved about Willow and that I so appreciate and cherish about Christ Church.
yeah, yeah. I have that. So I'm on a Phantom Ranch Bible Camp church board that I've been going to for 59 years.
Yes.
It's my mother was a waterfront director, and I was in her belly when she served in ministry there. So we're on like fourth generation kids
Wow.
going through the camp. So it's really fun to see that. It's our 70th year of ministry just passed.
Wow.
So seeing that, but back to the big small conversation. I got a friend who just retired as a pastor in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, which
Okay.
never heard of it, but it's outside of Philly. Um, and I would always talk to him about Steve. Is your church growing? His name's Steve too? Uh, PhD, went to Word of Life and Liberty and all this stuff. He said, Carl, I'm not a numbers guy. I'm a life guy. I'm like,
Mm,
tell me more. He's like, if people are growing personally and affecting our community, even though my numbers of my church aren't, going through the roof, he's like, I'm okay with that.
yeah.
And I was because I was still struggling with this big small issue, after finishing up with section leading. And I was like, that's a refreshing perspective in that his growth comes through the life of you, Steve, or
Mm,
me, Carl,
yeah.
not the numbers of butts in the seats on a
That's right.
given Sunday. So there's that. And I never really thought, because I was in your camp, like, hey, I'm either trying to grow or, if I'm big, figure out that small component, which was sections. And to me, I haven't shared this with a lot of people, but when sections, and I think you were part of the impetus of that strategy. It was cool. I ended up having a section that was pretty much all single moms or divorced, like for whatever reason. These were
Yeah.
the sheep or the people that
Yeah.
were the community that was given me. And in that 8 to 12 hours a week, we were, does I said, dude, I can't. And I think it was Sandra McFarland, I think, was one of the people
Mhm.
that I had reported to. It was a kind of revolving door as the supervisors. But I said, well, the only thing I have time for in this 8 to 12 hours, because I'm a business professional, I'm a dad and all that, is I can listen. I can listen
Mhm.
and love.
Yep.
And because I was getting all this heat on these meetings and all the performance things that Willow like to have. And I said, if you're not okay with me just listening and loving these people, it's okay. I can
Yep.
step away. But there's a value, and these people valued that
Yep. Yep.
because that's what I'm good at, and I think that's what it. When you're a church of that size or an organization of that size, if a leader or someone in authority just listens to you and acknowledges and then loves back on you, that's priceless,
Yeah. It's so
right?
true. Well, and it's interesting because like there's all these like myths, growth is good. That's it. That if you're growing, that means you're healthy. Well, cancer grows in a body, doesn't mean you're healthy. And if you don't grow and you stay like like small is better. Well, no, that's that's not always true. I mean, just ask someone if their 401k account just stayed the same. You'd be like, wait, what? It's not grow. So, but it's the posture, it's what you actually choose to celebrate. And when you are someone who can hold space and listen and love, um, it's probably not going to be as quick as some other means of pressure or fear or shame or but I guarantee you it's going to be a lot more long lasting and trustworthy because that person sat and listened and demonstrated love and good character. And I think that's what we're trying to do. I mean, I every time I get done teaching and I walk to my car, I just say the simple prayer. It's Lord, I'm one weekend closer to finishing well. One weekend closer. And it's just all right. I got 7 more days, and then I'm one weekend closer to finishing well. And 7 more days. And you just keep stacking those, listening, loving, shepherding, pastoring, prepping, writing, all of that. And over the time, if I can stay focused on Jesus and not on whatever fill in the blank could be a distraction, I think you end up living a life that is worthy of what you've been entrusted to and trusted with.
Yeah, it's funny because I say a lot of because I'm in the auto industry, so a lot of my folks are, they look at my postings or my things and they're, oh, you're such a religious guy. I'm like, I'm not religious at all. My personal opinion is religion is man-made.
Mm-hmm.
Faith is something that we own, and so I'm a faithful person. I have a faith, but
Yep.
I'm not religious at all because I'm not following this whole list of rules and I'm not, attending church every Sunday and I'm not doing that. So I kind of clarify that. But I also tell them is, man, the only thing I can take to the other side, which we've heard from many pastors, is
Mm-hmm.
people.
Yep. Yep.
So if I don't share that love and that message, and that doesn't mean they're going to, be baptized in my pool or, in the tub or, and be at Awana and every other little thing we check off the box. It just means that now they have a relationship, um, and have that, Holy Spirit with them to take wherever they are at,
Yeah.
whatever
It's so,
role,
yeah.
business, life, whatever.
Well, it's so true. I mean, it's like, even when you look at like Apple for the longest time, they even had a role of like chief evangelist. And you're like,
Yeah.
Apple?
Yeah.
What? But it's someone who was like telling the story of Apple. If I were to ask you, your favorite car in the last 5 years. There's probably a car that you can name because of the design or the way it rides or how quiet it is or just impressive you are with it. But you could talk about that. And and faith's the same way. It's just learning to talk about the stuff that actually matters to you and what anchors and drives you. And I think that for so many people, like we're doing this, whether through a restaurant, whether through a book that we've read, other stuff that's impacted our life. I just think when it comes to faith, we've seen it done poorly. And it just kind of makes us want to step back. But that's why I appreciate you, Carl. Like, I feel like even with all of the ways that you could be like pushing back, I feel like you just gracefully lean in and use all of the props, whether cars, whether podcasts, whether hoops, whether people, just to have a conversation, to do what you were doing as a section leader, listening, loving, and just finding connections. And I think great leaders, this is like not mine, this is from the CEO of Shake Shack. He said, great leaders, all they do is collect and connect. You're collecting data and connecting it with people. Great preaching, you're collecting information, connecting it with the heart and the needs of people. And that's what great people do. And I think you do that really, really well in all of the venues that you're stepping into.
Yeah, we try. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, we try. It's just like this is not a tit for tat, but just storytelling. And that's what I've appreciated about you and your learnings and your teachings. There's a lot of stories in there that are not only practical, but they're real life stuff. Do you still, Steve, have time to because again, we talked a little bit about those precious moments. But when you're speaking to a big crowd and your main role is teaching pastor, at least you still have those moments of births and weddings, and you still have the time to fit that stuff in.
I do, and that was really great. I mean, even with my role at Willow, we, had bifurcated kind of the lead pastor role into two positions. And my job really was like content and congregation. And so I worked on content and then I was accessible to the congregation. And kind of stepping into this lead pastor role, I only have five direct reports. My job is chief shepherd, they call me, primary teacher, pastorally accessible, future oriented, and one around kind of vision and generosity, which allows me to, hey, I've got this amount of time that I put towards my messages, this amount of time that I put towards people in our community, and just being present. And that's been a gift. And to know that I have a trustee board who knows how God's uniquely wired me, and having an organization where I've got so many teammates who really fill in the gaps where I'm weak as a leader, or I'm not as gifted or as strong as a leader,
Yeah.
but allows me to kind of lean into those pastoral strengths, and to build that connection. And then when I'm speaking, like, I have this 97-year-old man who goes to our church. His name's Jay McGreevy, which is just an awesome name. But Jay called me the other day, left a message, and he said, "Steve, there's a man who's about to climb a building on Netflix, and he doesn't have anything attached to him. They call it a free climb or solo free. Like he's trying to describe it, and I literally was just so moved by this phone call that he thought I would enjoy this. And he goes, and he might die, so let's be praying for him. And so in the middle of my talk, I saw Jay, and I was like, oh, this guy right here called me on Sunday. And I just, anytime you can break down that fourth wall, that barrier separating what happens on the stage from the actual people, I think just helps people go, oh, we're in this together. It's not that person gets it and we don't. It's this is what it means to be a community or a fellowship or people who are on mission together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny as I was just talking to somebody about that because we at the camp I was referring to earlier, we built a climbing center. We had a young man who passed away in Afghanistan serving the
Mm,
country. And one of his hobbies, when he ministered at camp, he was in the adventure program. So
cool.
one of his hobbies was rock climbing. So we built this indoor climbing center, which if you have youth groups in that and want to get up there, I'll connect you. But I was trying to figure out a way to get the free solo guy. I forget that guy's name. Who is the guy who climbed the building
Yep.
recently,
Yep.
but they wanted like $100,000 to have him come speak, and I was like, we just spent $500,000 on the building. Where I can't afford him to come and do the ribbon cutting
Yep.
ceremony, But um, that's a weird connection. But yeah, it's neat because again, we're all trying to do life together,
Yeah.
right? So when you can break down that barrier, and again, that's what I did appreciate about you was you were approachable, right?
Mm.
And there's, you know, not to go back to Willow too much, but when you see people out in space, I'll give you my one Michael Jordan connection.
Yes.
I was gassing up, and I said this in a couple previous episodes. It was by there when they used to practice in Deerfield. It was during the day. I was out visiting my customers and dealers. I'm at the gas station. I'm pumping up, and just out of the corner of my eye, I see this white little sports car. Meow. So I'm on this side, he's on this side, and it's a little tiny Porsche, and he gets out. He's gassing up like lit, and we're facing each other. I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "Hey, what's up?" I'm like, and I'm like, "I have Michael Jordan. It's me and him. There's no security barrier, nothing. He's just come from workout. He's in shorts and a t-shirt." I'm like, "Good luck tonight," because it was playoff season or
Yeah.
something. He's
Yeah.
like, "Thanks, man." Went inside, paid whatever. I mean, that was like 2 blocks from the thing, so I'm sure he's in there all the time. But no, it's approachable. There's no security.
Yep.
That's different now with him, obviously, but when you can have that interaction with somebody who I think a lot of people hold up on a pedestal or whatever, but yet you see them out in the community and can connect with them. It's very um to me at least, and I think to a lot of people, it's very refreshing to know that, oh, that person's not just an actor or an
Mm.
actress.
Yep.
they are like me, right? And
Yep.
maybe they have the same struggles and fears and anxieties as me. They live in my neighborhood. They're not, on a house on the hill. So again, just what I appreciate about you. And I think you're in the right place, space. It sounds like you got the right team and the right strategy around your heart and your gifts and talents and abilities. So that's cool that you've found that place, right?
Yeah.
To minister and serve and work.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thank you.
So, hey, we've got just, I know, a few minutes left here, so I want to kind of tie in our car theme here real quick. And I know I'll give you a little heads up, but let's rapid fire on this. What was your first car?
1988 Volvo 740 Turbo. My mom wanted me to drive the safest car on the planet at that time.
Wow, that's our first Volvo we've had, but yeah, as a first car, that's a good one. All right, what was your favorite car that you've owned over the years?
Could be a motorcycle or a car.
Yeah, give me one of each.
Okay. Favorite car that I've owned. We have like a Jeep Wrangler, and I like it. It just is my dad got it for us before he passed, and so it's kind of like a has a little sentimental value. And then I've had an old 1967 R60 BMW motorcycle, and I just love the classic. Just the cafe kind of style. But that's like a little Sabbath for me is when it's
Yeah.
nice weather just to get out and go right out to some dive bar and watch a game.
Yeah, another connect. I didn't know
Yeah,
you're a cycle guy.
yeah.
That's good.
So yeah.
We'll have to roll out up towards Lake Geneva.
Yeah, let's go.
That'd be fun. All right, and no budget, no checkbook limit, no whatever. What would be your dream car?
Ooh. I'll probably go something classic, like let's say a 19. I've always wanted like a 1979 because that was the year I was born. So last year they kind of made this body style, but of just a Ford um truck. The Ranger one was the smaller one, but it was just like the front bench seat truck. I think that maybe a 79 Toyota FJ.
Hmm.
I don't know, something classic I think would be really, really awesome.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that because I had this dream, and 79 is a interesting year because of gas guzzling versus economy and all that.
Yep.
So from 76 to like 80 in there, right? Um, but I was born in 66. There's a ton of cool muscle cars. And I always thought if like I won $1 billion lottery, I would get like every model of cool muscle car in 66, like
Yes.
a Nova and a because there's some cool, Mopars in that year, but I don't know that Beth would make room for all that. And there's such maintenance of keeping these things running. And
Oh,
I believe I don't like to. I love to look at cars, but I want to know that could I jump in that car right now and run it around the
right.
block?
Yeah. Do you ever get out to Kissimmee or Barrett Jackson in Phoenix? You ever been to either of those for those massive car shows
Yeah, I was just at.
or
It's funny
car
because I was
auction?
at.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's great. I have not been to Kissimmee. That's on my bucket list, but I've been at Barrett Jackson, which is unbelievable. And it's funny because I was just in the last 6 months, I'm trying to get him on the podcast as Dana Meekum.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I know him. He doesn't know me, but
Yeah.
my old car mentor was his first customer at his first auctions.
Wow.
So I saw him. There was a private sale here in at the Fairmont Collection in Chicago a few months back. So I was there, saw Dana, talked to him, and then I was in Vegas a few months back for their Vegas sale. And I was walk. It was funny because I was in the elevator at my hotel, which was next to the convention center, and I met these husband and wife who had Meekum gear on. I'm like, "Oh, you here for the auction?" They're like, "No, we're working at it." I'm like, "Oh, I know Dana. My mom lives in Williams Bay." And they're like, "Hey, come by. We'll give you a pass." So the show wasn't
Oh,
even open yet, but she gave me a pass and I just walked around the setup. It was like 80% done. And as I'm walking out back to the hotel, I see this old guy kind of shuffling in. It's Dana. So I talked to him again for 5-10 minutes in prep. So yeah, he's a good dude and a great story. And those are amazing shows. Yeah, I love them.
yeah. Yeah, but that right there is like quintessential Carl right there. You're just like just having again listening, loving, and they're like, oh my gosh, like connecting, collecting,
Yeah.
connecting, and they're like, oh, you got to come check this out. And I just love how doors open for you.
I love that collecting. And I read his book, by the way, the founder of,
Yeah, Shake
just
Shack.
what a great story of
Yep,
all his restaurants, but Shake Shack
yep.
too. All right. Well, we got a couple minutes left here. This is our kind of our wow question. We wrap all these episodes up with words of wisdom. I know the wow is a little hokey, but what would Steve Carter uh, tell young Steve Carter, or what have you told your son? Like, here's either my motto or my mission statement, or I wish I knew this when I was 18. We're now more experienced. What would you share to our audience and to your 18-year-old self?
So my grandfather's buried at West Point. He was a multi-star general. Um, and over 100 years ago, there was a new chaplain who joined West Point and taught all of the cadets something that's known as the cadets prayer. And the cadets prayer says lines like this: May we live above the common level of life. May we choose the harder right when the lesser wrong can be acceptable. Something to that extent. And so, one of those pieces that I constantly, ever since my son was 2 years old, I'd always ask him, did you have integrity today? Did you choose the harder right? And I think I would go back and tell myself at 18, your integrity, your character, and the choices you make stack and stack and stack and stack, and never try to live below that common level. Always choose the harder right. And even it doesn't mean that because it's right, it's not going to be hard. And it doesn't mean if it's hard, it's not right, but to choose the harder right. But that takes internal fortitude. That takes like higher values of truth and justice and righteousness and all that kind of stuff. But like just know like your integrity is something that will take seconds, minutes, hours, weeks, months, years, decades to gain and seconds to lose.
Yeah.
And you aren't what you purchase, you aren't what you drive, you aren't your title, you aren't your bank account. Um, you are your integrity and your character. And live a life that allows people to say, why are you that way? Live a life that demands an explanation. So that'd probably be stuff that I would say, like it's probably stuff I knew because my youth pastor would tell me that. But I don't think I was like, yeah, that's what every person's supposed to say. But the older I've gotten, the harder it is not to take shortcuts, to not do that harder work, or to name that temptation, or to confess, or to um, grow that area in my life where bitterness or there might be a childhood wound that I'm not wanting to tend to. But the more that I can do the harder right, um, I think it will lead to a much better and healthier and fuller life. So that's what I read to say to myself at 18.
You've done a great job of that. And I think when you look at like God's favorite people who were fallible and failed many, many times, but for the most part, I think they chose the harder right.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though they
Yep.
failed, they came back and came around, and
Yep.
he loved them and encouraged them. So, Steve, man, great words of wisdom. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, can I ask you a quick question real
Yeah,
quick? I know
sure.
I always feel like podcast uh hosts never get asked the same. What was your first car? What is your favorite car that you've had, and what would you drive today if you could?
All right. So my first car, it's funny because I had this conversation with somebody. My first car was I forget what year it was, but it was a Datsun B210 wagon
Let's go.
that was a stick shift that was the world's slowest car. But I was like, this is what the thing that sticks in everybody's mind, Steve, I think about first cars. It's freedom,
Freedom. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whatever piece of crap you bought or had or were given, it's freedom.
Yeah.
Favorite car, I think, was my Escalade Suburban version, so the ESV.
Oh yeah,
It
yeah.
was just like a truck, but you're riding on a couch.
Yes, yes.
Even though it was 150,000 miles, but it just was a beast and practical. And I think my favorite, or sorry, my dream car would be kind of along the lines. If there was, and I know they make it, and it's a bazillion dollars now, is a Wrangler with that V8 Hemi in it.
Oh
That
yes.
last, they just made it. It's like a Rubicon.
Yeah.
I was in Vegas a few months ago, and they had one of the last production ones on the showroom floor, Steve. They wanted 120, I think, for it. I'm
Wow.
like, for a Wrangler, it was a
We're in
four-door. It was just, it had a better suspension, lift kit, and that motor in it. And I was like, I'm not paying 100 because they're
No,
tin
no.
can, as you know. They're
Yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but take all the roof and the doors and everything. They're just a fun thing. So that would be my dream
That's
rig.
awesome. That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no worries. Well, brother, I hope to see you soon. I hope we can play some hoops before I hit 60 here in September and have some life left in my legs. But I'll keep you in touch on the Leon project and definitely let you know when that premiere is.
Awesome. Can't wait, man. It's great to catch up and we'll be in touch soon.
Yep. Thanks, man.
Take